Okay, so apart from a couple of little issues with the actual engine on this thing, that's pretty much how you set up a Trac Vac. And so what's left? I've got to work on this recoil, make it actually recoil. Interesting choke setup there, almost like an old auto choke. I do have a foam air filter element. It's not the right shape for the breather on this thing, but I think it'll still work because it's got the same distance top and bottom. It just doesn't fill the whole thing out, so I think that'll be fine. This is something of an issue. I don't know. What I need to do is remove this carburetor tank assembly so that I can maybe unscrew this thing and figure out what's going on with the threads in the block of this thing. It doesn't look good though. I don't know why that would be so loose. That's kind of scary because that means that that block is potentially junk, but it's also got little bolt holes there for a flange, so I guess I'm not out of the water. It's not like just because those threads are messed up I can't just bolt on a muffler that would take that thing's place. But yeah, other than that, we know it runs. Luckily, I think we've already looked in here before, but luckily the inside of that tank looks really nice, so that's a positive development. This thing would probably run if I just put gas in it. And yeah, this thing should be ready to go, suck up some leaves. So let's go ahead and get the new air filter oiled up and installed in the thing and get the breather installed. We can probably ignore this muffler for now, maybe, and take this thing for a test vac. I swear I cleaned this bench and in less than a day it's completely cluttered up. So here's the air cleaner assembly. This is really not looking good. Honestly, I don't like this foam. Why would you make it out of stuff that deteriorates and can get sucked into the engine? I don't know. I guess you could say that people should just maintain their stuff and change the filter before this happens, but who does that? Anyway, so I have this one. And it's not quite the same, but I think, like I said, since that thickness, God, that's even thinner, isn't it? I don't know. I think we can make this work, and we're going to try regardless. So let me get all this crap out of here. Get this thing all cleaned up. Alright, so here's the thing. I'm just going to cut this to fit, because as stated, it's going to try to, the thing is going to try to breathe through it sideways. So the air comes up through these holes here, and then if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's not like it seals perfectly around this lip, so some air comes in through here, and then it goes sideways through this and into this area here. Or is that, no, that's not true, is it? Look at this thing. It comes up through there. Either way, the point I'm driving at here is that this thing doesn't have to perfectly fill out all this. All it has to do is make a good seal around this thing, because that's where the air is going to come in. So I think that's all that matters. So let me get this thing cleaned up and see what we're dealing with here. So maybe if we can just kind of force that over, maybe not. Maybe what I need to do is cut this. I'll just cut like a ½ inch off of this thing. So, future me here, I was looking at these clips, doing the editing, and in retrospect, I don't know why this didn't occur to me when this was right in front of my face, but I don't think that this little modified filter thing that I've got going on here is actually going to work. I'm now convinced, looking at this, that when that plate gets smushed down by that plastic piece in the middle, it's actually going to let a lot of unfiltered air work its way around the outside edge of that and make its way into the engine. And so before I actually do any sustained running of this engine, especially in the dusty environment of leaf pickup, I'm definitely going to get on eBay and get the real filter for this thing. So just thought I'd mention that. Seem right. Doesn't either. Should. There it is. Okay. All right. So now we just got to deal with this recoil, and I bet you we could put gas in it and start it. So it's good progress for now. So this 20G used to have a little backup light thing bolted right there, and what powered it was this red wire, and somewhere over there's a ground wire hanging off. And so I didn't want it, so I got rid of that and I cut that wire off there. I never fully eliminated it, and it's actually powered by that toggle switch up there on the dash. And so funny enough, I'm sitting here looking at this thing, and there's wires coming off of the switch here, and I just noticed this that seems to want to go in that direction, and it has a female spade connector on it. So just messing around, I grabbed a wire with a male spade connector, and I just kind of touched it. To that wire there with the switch on the dash, and I turned this key to the start position, and what do you know, that starter started turning. So whoever had all this set up on this tractor before me had this set up to where that wire that went to that originally would just connect to this and start this thing without using the recoil, funny enough. So I'm gonna, and I don't know, on a side note here, that's not exactly a battery cable size wire that you would use to operate a starter motor, but I don't know, it is kind of a small starter just for a little 5-horse, like that little bitty thing. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna sit there and just crank on it and crank on it and crank on it. I'm not gonna, you know, overload it too much, let it get too hot, but I figure why not go ahead and solder a wire back onto this to extend that so I can plug this up and maybe use the starter for this thing. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna solder that. But let's plug it in and see what happens. Alright, let's put some gas in it. and see if it'll start. It's got oil in it. Choke, I guess. And wire doesn't feel too hot. Still doesn't. Yeah, this tractor's been having battery issues, so I need to go get the jump box. Alright, let's try it again. Full choke. Wire still doesn't feel hot. I'm guessing that starter just doesn't draw very many amps. Pretty sure on these carbs you're supposed to put this screw back in if you're going to operate it without the air cleaner. Oh, I can see it going right there. Huh. That's funny. Alright. Full choke doesn't exactly. Give it a lot of air, so let's see how this is. Alright, carb spray it is. That's not good. It's on full throttle. I don't know if it's supposed to be. I think this thing only runs at 1 RPM. I don't think that there's an idle or any of that. I don't know. Well, we have carburetor issues. Awesome. Alright, looks like the carb and tank assembly has to come off. And so the intake manifold / carburetor body are those two bolts. They're like 3/8 and they've got like flathead This one here up under there is virtually impossible to get to, so I'm really glad they designed it that way. And then the tank has a little 3/8 bolt down there. What I don't know is this rod right here. I think it goes down under there and connects to this linkage. On some of these there's a throttle cable that mounts here and then hooks up to this, and that's how you can control it. And this down here is the kill wire, so when you go all the way to full stop it kills it. This doesn't have that because you don't ever run this thing at idle. It's a blower. You just run it full on. So hopefully when I'm taking this off, this won't give me any trouble. I guess I could take that head bolt off, but anyway, once I deal with those two bolts and the one at the bottom, I'll see what's entailed with dealing with that rod. It might just not be a problem at all. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. Maybe I'll just get a carb kit. I'm pretty sure the way this works is this part right here, inside there's a diaphragm, and it needs to be able to be nice and pliable to operate as a pulse type fuel pump. Basically those Briggs pulse fuel pumps are built into the carburetors on these. So I'm guessing when I get this off of here and I get that cover off that it's going to be all hard and not pliable. And then while I've got the darn thing off, I'll probably have to go ahead and deal with this exhaust, because if you saw when it was running on carb spray, that thing was shaking all around. So let's see what we're looking at here. Can I even? No, probably not. I think that'll work. Oh, that was pretty loose. Maybe I can just squeeze that in from the side here. Okay. Possibly feed this. See what's. How are you supposed to do this? This is kind of ridiculous, honestly. And this one here is not the easiest one. I'm going to leave that in case this thing wants to come off of there, and I don't want it to do that. I'm not sure yet. Well, you can almost, but not quite. That'd be funny if oil started spewing out of that. I would have really been mad, because the drain plug's right next to it. Okay. This is honestly kind of unbelievable. I mean, they got these little slots in there, and that's great, but like, how about you just don't design it like this? Like, I don't know. I mean, you can just kind of come out anytime if you like. It'd be great. Okay, I think the bottom bolt's out. It is. Now this top one, I should be able to... There we go. Now, the only thing is that rod, and it is, in fact... Oh, and I guess you hopefully saw that breather came out there. Ooh. No, so this little rod here is hooked up to the governor, so we can't... Luckily they made this like as hard as possible to deal with, so I really appreciate that from Briggs. They did a really good job with that. Let's maybe if we take this thing off. Is that something we can just do? Hang on, I want to, if we can, thread this back in here just to keep all this in place while we figure these throttle linkages out. That's fine. That's fine too. That probably could use some cleaning up and oiling or something. And then what I'm hoping to do, if I can, is just... Obviously that rod down there has got a Z-bend in it. So if I can just get it off the top first. Come on. Okay, I got that off. Now let's get that little spring off of there. I don't know if you can see that up there. Get that little spring off. Okay. Now this thing down there, we should be able to just bend this, not bend it, but twist it up off of that Z-bend. So that one's taken care of. That'll just stay with the motor. And now, if we take this thing, let me see if I can get that bolt out too. That doesn't need to be precariously dangling there. Alright, let me remove this one here. Now that we'll be able to just twist this any which direction we want, we should be able to get it off the Z-bend to the bottom of this rod. Put that up there safely. And now see down at the bottom there. Twist, not twist, but bend that in such a way that it comes off of this Z-bend at the end of this rod here. If it would do it, I don't know why it won't do what it's supposed to do. Oh wow, it must have like a burr in the bottom of it that won't let it come out the rest of the way. Because it should just come right out. Let me get this. There's also, hopefully you can see that spring down there. Let's get it off. Wow, nothing wants to cooperate here. Okay, I just can't seem to grab it. Let me use a pair of needle nose. Okay, that was a lot easier than it seemed. And now that one, why won't that just... There it goes. I guess I just didn't have this low enough. Okay, success. The carb and tank assembly are off. So let's go to the clutter bench. These weren't very tight at all. That's weird. Probably doesn't matter, but still noteworthy. Yeah, that actually seems okay. I'm going to put it back on. So I could be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, I think there's supposed to be gas in that part. I don't know. And this sucks up some of that. Well. Let's pull this main jet here and see what's underneath it. Was not hard at all to break loose. That's weird. I mean, it looks clean inside. Okay. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with these over the tank style. But I'm going to pour some gas in that little hole there. See if something happens. I didn't quite want to go that nutty with it. Oh, wait a minute. So this part here, where that gasket's missing, there's no remaining gasket there. I wonder if it needs to have that sealed up. Because that goes like that, doesn't it? Yeah, that was not... In fact, when I had this off and there was a bunch of gaskets sitting out the side, that might have been... I might be cutting my own gasket, so... Great. I definitely don't see what could go wrong here. Carefully. Carefully. Okay, we might be able to use that as a template. Careful, dumbass. Okay, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, exactly right. So, when I showed that hole, or that reservoir basically on the inside of the tank, the way this works is pulses from the intake operate that diaphragm, which pulls gas up from this tube. I don't know why I always do that. Pulls gas up from this tube to there, then it goes in this way on the one pulse, and then on the other pulse it goes out there, which comes out of this and fills up that little reservoir, and that's what this draws from to feed the main jet, which then goes directly in and feeds the engine. So for whatever reason that wasn't working. Seemed nice and pliable to me, so I'm not really sure I can't really make a new gasket for this. I'd have to order one, and I really don't want to do that, so we're going to try to not do that. So I do have to make a gasket for this though. Oh, I also got to clean up the tank surface, so let's do that. And I don't want anything to fall in there, so this isn't going to be fun. Let's just try to make our cuts. See, I think those screw holes go in there. There we go. Okay, that's good enough. Alright, let's make a template, or I mean, let's make a gasket. So since that one blew out there, I gave it a little thing there. And I think I'll be able to use these too. I don't think this is just for leather. I certainly don't see why not. Which size? It's not those, is it? Where are those big screws at? It's probably gonna be this one. Okay. Yeah, that works beautifully. Well, that would be a reason to cut that a little bit bigger. Okay, that ought to do it. Definitely don't want to over tighten these. Proceeds to over tighten them. Not really. Okay. So this spring with this little washer thing, the rounded part of that washer thing goes out to go against the diaphragm. Like that. And I can't get it to stay. So I'm really glad I'm doing this now. And then obviously the round part goes up against that spring. Now this thing will probably run for at least a little while since I filled up the reservoir. So we don't know if it's going to pump more gas in there or not. Maybe it just needed primed. I don't know. So now let's go ahead and get the jet put back in. I don't know where it went. Over here. Just in case, I'm going to back this thing off. Let's get a little more. There we go. We'll go all fully seated. And then 1.5 turns. Heck with it. That's fine. 1.5. Sounds good. Okay. Yeah. So there's a carburetor rebuilt. Alright, while I had the carb off, I went ahead and unscrewed that muffler out of there, and these threads are wrecked. But as previously stated, they do have 2 little bolt holes here because these Briggs engines, they came with all kinds of different styles of muffler. And so I grabbed one off of another 5-horse Briggs that I had, and it overhang too far. It hung over too far past the block and was bumping into that, so that's not going to work. So I'm just going to have to get on the internet tonight and see what kind of different styles of muffler they had that took the 2 bolts, that's more self-contained. I don't know why they would ever make a muffler that hangs so far out past. I mean, that's the side that random things get bolted to, so that seems stupid to me, but I'm always whining about things like this, so that should come as no surprise. But the main thing was having the carburetor off of there so that I could unscrew that muffler, so that's done. And I see no reason not to go ahead and bolt this carburetor and tank back on. So, if I recall, there are some things that we need to do, including this thing needs to get onto, that thing needs to go to there, and that spring down here, that spring hanging, needs to go on that little guy. So let's get the spring on there first, I guess. This is definitely going to work. I don't see why it wouldn't. Alright, I need some needle nose. Come on. Just doesn't have the right angle on it. Alright, there we go. Sweet. So now if we can get this Z-bend in there. It's crazy how it's just so close to going. Come on, man. I don't really see why it has to be like this. There we go. And then I'm going to have to guide this tube here into that. And then where's our little throttle control rod right here? I just want to make sure it's up. So let's feed that into there. And then if I'm not mistaken, I should be able to... Well, I don't want to do that. I should be able to move that into position after the fact. So let's get that in place. Let's go ahead and thread one of these up here just to keep this all in position for me. Oh, I thought that was threading. Come on, man. Okay, it is. I don't know how to get this one into position there. Okay. And as far as actually screwing it in, I don't know. Do this thing again. Is it threading in? I can't tell. think so. Alright, so everything's loosely threaded in now. This thing goes like that. And then we've got these two components. Where'd that go? So this thing goes into there, and there, that goes on that, and then this thing goes on that rod right there. So I think we can worry about that later. I think. I sure wish there was an easier way to screw that bottom screw in. I wonder if there's anybody that like really loves Briggs engines that would defend this design. I would be really interested to hear what their argument is, because that seems like one of the stupidest. Beep. Okay, bottom bolt. Are we lined up? Probably not. No, we're not. Okay. Alrighty. Oh no, that spring came off. Alright, come on. I mean, that's where it goes, right? I think so. It doesn't really move. Oh, okay, that's probably just when the... Let me see. Oh yeah, okay. Yep, okay, sweet. Alright, I'm going to try a skinnier, longer screwdriver to do this thing, and it won't turn at all. It's sort of going. Have I mentioned how stupid this is? Okay. Oh, that was super easy. I'm going to make a joke about how easy that was, even though it totally wasn't. I'm not even doing that. This was really, just made me mad. Alright, where's that rod at? Right there. Okay, I wonder if taking that spring off would help. Lift that way up. Get this thing on there. Okay, got it. Alright, now that we can move this around, we need to get this guy on there like that. And don't forget to get this spring. Oh, it actually wasn't that hard. I'm a little bit surprised. It was kind of hard. Okay. Spring still hooked up. Alright, so allegedly would start. You know what? Even though it doesn't have a muffler, and it's going to be ridiculously too loud. That's not threaded in there, is it? Oh yeah, it is. That's choke. I guess we'll choke it. Alrighty. Switch on. Earmuffs for me. I'll turn the volume down for you. See what happens. Wow, that was probably pretty loud. So okay, we know it runs, but what we don't know is if that little tiny reservoir that I just filled up with gas, we don't know if that's just going to run out and it's just going to die. So I wish I had a muffler because I could just run it for longer and see if the pump is working and continuing to fill that little reservoir up. But yeah, I mean, that's progress. It runs. I guess I should turn that switch off. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess I need to get a muffler. Once we get a muffler, if this thing stays running, then that's it. We got a muffler. We've got a way to start it. The carburetor is now functioning properly. I'll probably wait till it warms up and mess with that main jet setting, and then we'll go and do some test vacuuming. So let's see what I find out as far as the muffler goes. Okay, this is the style I went with. To be honest, I think it's going to clear that, but I think it's going to stick out too far in the front, and it's going to hit this tube down here. I bet it won't even. I mean, there's just absolutely no chance. Of course. So that's great. That was a waste. I like how they paint these silver. It's brand new. This thing is brand new. Even that gasket's brand new. This thing is awesome. Anyway. Well, that really sucks. I think I determined later that when they wrecked these threads on this, it's because they were trying to, this is all scraped up on this tank. They were trying to screw that pipe in with the L still bolted to it, and they just kept forcing it, and it just wallered that out. Great job, you idiot. Like, fantastic job. So I don't know. I guess at this point, the problem is this is just too confined in here. Like, what kind of, this tank is so big that it's too tight to have any kind of canister muffler come off of that. I really honestly don't see any way to run a normal muffler on it without just getting a pipe that comes out further, unfortunately. So that's what, 10-15 bucks down the drain. Awesome. I still can't use this, and the leaves are starting to fall, so I'm super happy right now. I'm definitely not the least bit mad at this retard. And so my plan is to extend it a little bit past, and so basically I've got this pretty tight on there. See how there's no play in it now? So there were still some pretty good threads further into the head, and I've got this to engage with them. Seems like it's sealed up pretty well. Seems like it's not wobbling. It's pretty good right now. I think that's good. And then I'm going to do a street 90 here so it doesn't stick too far out. And then just have the muffler come out the side like it did originally. And I'm going to check that box in that way. So with that, I'll go ahead and get that buttoned up. Showing every little step on this whole thing is getting kind of nutty, so I'm just going to wrap up this exhaust. I'll show it to you after I'm done. And then we'll go ahead and do a test. The leaves are falling, and so using this thing is imminent. But we'll still go ahead and do a test before we really need this thing. So let's see what I come up with for this exhaust. And then here's the solution that I came up with for the muffler. This is what's called a street elbow, so it's a 90, but it's got a male on one side and a female on the other. And I did have to bend this original bracket out a little bit to meet this. Not sure how long a crappy hose clamp like that'll work, but I can always do one of those U-bolt exhaust clamps later. But that seems to be working out well. So okay. Okay, as stated previously, I have gone ahead and acquired a proper filter off of eBay. That is the part number for it. And hopefully this little logo cut into this indicates that it's an OEM. So anyway, yeah. Way overdid that. So yeah, now any air that comes in through all this or around that lip, which apparently is going to be some, will definitely get filtered before it goes into the engine. So I can rest easy now. Let's see if this thing will start. Switch on. Full choke. It will. All right, let's do a test. Okay, not too bad. Does a pretty decent job. Okay, cool. Well, I'll set this thing up in the front yard after all the leaves really fall, because obviously that oak there hasn't even turned colors yet. You can see some of those up front there are starting to lose theirs. You know, there's going to be a lot more back here to pick up, so yeah, pretty sweet. It works. Not all the leaves have fallen yet, but there's probably no reason not to do an interim leaf pickup in the meantime. So I don't know. It seems like that's a pretty good mix of greens and browns right there. I don't know if this will make good compost or not, but there it is. That's what you get. Pretty cool.